Well, if you've given the first 3 speeches, your skill stack is really growing and you're becoming a more dynamic speaker in front of an audience. Dynamic means energetic, lively, and powerful. Speaking in front of an audience is a little bit like a superpower. Lots of people are scared by public speaking, but that's because they never learned the skills like you are, really understanding and building one skill on another. In the previous speeches, you've learned the basics of the physical end of public speaking, what you can do with your voice and body. Now we start to show you some additional tools to make your speeches even better. Today we're going to teach you the skill of using visual aids. Visual aids are things that you show the audience. They're used to help the audience better understand and remember what they've heard. Let's start by talking about different types of visual aids. The first is you as the visual aid. If you're giving a speech about dancing or martial arts, something physical, it can be very helpful for you to demonstrate the moves rather than just describing them. You can step out from behind your lectern, or for online meetings, back up from your camera so you're fully visible and show the audience how it's done. You can even add some audience participation by inviting the audience to try it themselves. Next is holding something for people to see. If it's not very big, you can, again, step out from behind your lectern and walk it about the room showing it, or you can have your audience pass it around. Now, if you are in the audience and you're the last person to receive the item that's being passed around, just hold on to it for the speaker to collect after the speech. It can be very distracting if you hand visual aids back to a speaker during their speech, unless requested to. It's also important that anything you hold up for the audience to see be held up long enough and still enough for them to get a good look at it. Another common visual aid is the use of a whiteboard or flip chart to help you explain or demonstrate something. You can also use it to write a list or put up ideas you ask for from the audience. You can also display items on an easel if available. Here are a couple of creative ways to use visual aids that I saw for speeches given at a couple of online clubs recently. The first example is a speech where the speaker had an assistant hold the camera and follow the speaker while she moved along a long countertop, talking about the visual aids she had laid out. The second example, the speaker set up 2 cameras that he shared on the screen at the same time. One was pointed at him, and the other at the paper he was using to demonstrate how to draw something. This way we could watch him explain his process and see him create it at the same time. Well, now's a good time to mention things you always want to avoid when using visual aids. First, avoid using visual aids that cause you to face away from the audience for a long time. Second, avoid using visual aids that limit your speaking. For example, showing a lengthy video, even if it's you speaking in the video. And third, avoid using visual aids that have too much information written on them. This sometimes happens when speakers present slideshows. They think that they can pretty much write their speech on the slides and just read from the slides. Well, that's a big no-no in Speakers League. When sharing a slide presentation with the group, in person or online, don't put blocks of text on the screen. If you're telling us about it, we usually don't need to also read it off the screen. You don't read your speech off your slides ever, and just use a minimal amount of text on them. Slides aren't there to tell you what to say for your speech. Sometimes members will put up a slideshow with only text for a book review speech. Why did I choose this book? About the characters. What is this book about? Other books I want to read. There's no reason to even have slides like these. Just hold up the book for a bit so the audience gets a good look at it, and then talk about why you chose it, the characters, what they're dealing with, and other books you want to read, and so on. So don't bother with slides if they're not necessary. Only use them if they'll help the audience better understand what you're talking about. They're for the audience, not you. Any wording should be as short as possible. In cases where you put a title on a slide, for example, Keys to Successfully Raising a Dog, don't read the title to the audience. A speech should flow like a conversation, and you wouldn't provide a title to the next thing you were going to talk about in a conversation. You'd never say, Plans for dinner. Mom, what are you making for dinner? The audience can see the title of the slide, so instead of saying aloud, Keys to Successfully Raising a Dog, you should say something like, there are 3 critical elements for raising your puppy into a balanced dog: exercise, discipline, and affection, in that order. Rather than using lots of words on your slides, think of your slides as a visually attractive starting point for the audience that doesn't give away the story that you're telling. As a bonus for you, the pictures on the slide are sort of a roadmap to remind you about what you'll talk about next. The rule of thumb for slides is the less text, the better. Here are a few more tips for slides. If you're using a projector for your slides, don't have it shine on you. Don't have a title slide, and don't have a thank you slide at the end. They're not necessary, and source and bibliography slides are not required in Speakers League. Also, you don't need to have a slide show running through your entire speech. It's fine to just show 1 or 2 slides only when they're needed. If you want to include some text sections on the screen, keep them brief and try to set it up so that they appear just one at a time, so the audience won't tend to read ahead of where you are. Be sure to use presentation mode when displaying slides, so we see your slides full size and don't see the thumbnails and program icons on your computer. If a speech can be made more interesting, understandable, or effective by using visual aids, always use them. Then get to practicing until you have strong eye contact, good gestures, and vocal variety, and smooth handling of your visual aids. You might find it especially helpful to record and watch videos of your practice of this speech to see how the visual aids are working.